Alright, we have a web form here, and to learn about the checked pseudo class, let's focus on the checkboxes, radio buttons, and then the select element. Let's start with the checkboxes. Currently, there is no checkbox with a checked attribute in the HTML, so no checkbox appears as checked on the screen. Now let's add the CSS for the checked pseudo class. So I'm going to scroll down here, and then input, and if the input state is checked, I'm going to add outline 3 pixel solid orange. Since no checkbox is checked, none of the checkboxes will receive the orange outline. Now let's add a checked attribute to the YouTube checkbox. So here, checked. As you can see, the YouTube checkbox is now checked and received the orange outline defined in the checked pseudo class. Now, let's put the orange outline on the label instead. I'll pause the video for a few seconds to let you write the CSS for it. So see you in a bit. Alright, so let's do that. So to put the orange outline on the label, we need to use the adjacent sibling combinator. So after the checked pseudo class, we're going to add adjacent sibling combinator and label, like so. And here we go. The label is now getting the orange outline. Awesome. I'm going to remove the adjacent sibling combinator, and we have the orange outline back to the checkbox. Cool. Now let's click on the Facebook checkbox, and we will see the orange outline on the Facebook checkbox as well because it is currently checked too. Next, I'm going to untick the YouTube checkbox. So even though the checked attribute remains in the HTML, the current state of the YouTube checkbox is now off. So the orange outline defined in the checked pseudo class won't be applied to the YouTube checkbox anymore. Alright, now let's move on to the radio buttons. We have job position radio buttons, and initially, no radio buttons are checked. So the orange outline won't be applied to any of the radio buttons. Now, let's add the checked attribute to the senior position radio button. So here, checked. And as you have guessed, the senior radio button receives the orange outline. This time, I'm going to add the checked attribute to the principal radio button as well. If I do that, which radio button do you think will receive the orange outline? So, when I add that, checked here, the orange outline remains on the senior radio button. This behavior is different from the default pseudo class we learned in the last video. So let's review the default pseudo class by adding the default styles. So I'm going to add input, default, and let's add outline, 3 pixel, solid green this time. Now, because the default pseudo class and then the checked pseudo class have the same specificity, but the default pseudo class is positioned below the checked pseudo class, it will override the outline style. Now, let's take a look at the radio buttons. Since both principal and senior radio buttons are checked by default, the green outline defined in the default pseudo class will be applied to both radio buttons. Now, let's comment out the default pseudo class. And the checked pseudo class only applies to the radio button that is currently checked. So in this case, the orange outline will be applied only to the senior radio button, which is currently checked. Alright, if we click on the junior radio button, since the checked state moved to the junior radio button in this radio button group, the orange outline will move to the junior radio button. Cool. Lastly, let's discuss the options in the select box. We have a course select box with 4 course options. Let's add one more line to the CSS. So here, option checked. And now I'm going to add selected attribute to the CSS option. Selected. And as you can see, no orange outline will be applied to the option element, as the browser doesn't provide much flexibility to update the styles of an option element. This is what we already learned in the default pseudo class too. So for now, we don't have many choices due to this limitation. However, I will keep you updated if any new specification becomes available for styling options. Alright, I hope you enjoyed this video and see you in the next video.